Sunday slate, we had that. So it was afternoon, evening, correct? We had the afternoon, evening, and it was wonderful, awesome, amazing games. I think people thought, okay, this is where Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fall apart. Going to Detroit, biting kneecaps, taking out chunks, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But they made it a game and had a chance at the end to potentially tie the game, and they did some things that maybe they shouldn't have done that could have gotten the opportunity to win the game. So real quick, they lost 31-23 to Detroit. In Detroit, Baker played his heart out, and he kept him in the game. It was a heartbreaking INT at the end of the game, but he had 349, 3 touchdowns, two INTs. But the yards for Baker getting up there, like being that I watched him for 5 years or 4 years in Cleveland, his stat line was a lot of, 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. It was very pedestrian. He's playing lights out football. He's a free agent. So we'll see what leans into that.
Right.
And obviously Mike Evans, also a free agent. He had 8 receptions for $147, bro, and a TD. Yeah. Like, to do what he's continued to do for 10 straight years is pretty incredible. And I know the Randy, the Jerry Rice thing, if he did this again and doubled it up, he still wouldn't catch Jerry. Yeah, I hear you guys. And I hear you. But I'm going to give Mike Evans his flowers. It's pretty amazing. Bro, Detroit Lions, are they America's team, bro? They might be America's team. Just for now, in the playoffs, I'm saying I think America's going to rally behind the 4 teams that are left. I think Detroit might get the rally because people are sick of the Kansas City team. That's just a little thought I had, but
yeah, I have too many Midwest ties to say that. Like I know Bears fans and Packers fans and Vikings fans probably don't feel that way, but yes, the rest of the country they might be. But yeah, and I think a lot of it's Dan Campbell, right? Like everybody loves Dan Campbell, right? Like I think he's, Jared Goff. The fans love Jared Goff. There's been Jared Goff chants at the end of the last 2 games, so like. Not MVP, just Jared Goff.
But loud enough the TV picked it up. You could hear it.
Yeah, they're not saying, either way. Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome for him. And for both of them, for Dan Campbell, for Jared Goff, for the city of Detroit. But I'm not rooting for them. I will say that. I honestly do not want to see 2 Michigan teams get championships this year.
So I hear you on that, but you might be swaying me here because I feel for Detroit, but at the same time, if I was.
You want Michigan to win and the Lions to win?
I hear you. If they're going to get it over with, just get it over with in one shot, so it's over. And
I'll say this right now. I also don't want 2 Harbaughs to win.
No, I agree with you on that because how I feel about that.
I'm just saying, I don't want that. So you can tell who I want my championship to be.
Well, I can understand. I'm a Browns fan. I do not want to see the Ravens win, so I get it. Like, I understand where you're coming from. But
yeah,
to see
that was awesome.
That happened, and it's kind of. Kind of full circle. It was they won that game to go on to the NFC Championship game, and it was 3 years ago to the day that they hired Dan Campbell.
Yeah, no.
He came with the press conference. Yeah. He spoke his mind. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. He brought the coaching staff back that maybe they thought maybe needed to make some moves, and they didn't, and he believed in them. And that team rallies around. That team really feels like a team. And watching them play, yes, you can't be happy for them, but take the context of you being a Vikings fan, seeing that and seeing a team that hasn't won forever get that opportunity, it's exciting. I'm happy for them in that regard.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I want to talk about a few things in this game. I guess since we're on the Lions, I want to bring up just one stat. It's 8.2. That's the average yards Jahmyr Gibbs had on his carries. It was only 9 carries, but 8.2 yards. Like, for real, the highlights, man, the kid did not get touched. I really like his game, and I hate it because, I hate watching the Lions. I don't want to like watching Jahmyr Gibbs, but, man, he is fun to watch. And then also, about Baker Mayfield, I do know Todd Bowles says he wants him back, right?
Sure.
Baker got his swagger back, and Todd Bowles wants that swagger on his team. So
I like it. I think it's a great fit for him. What's funny is when Brady was there, I thought the last year that Brady was there, the Browns should have traded Baker to Tampa Bay. I talked about this with my friends to sit behind Tom for 1 year because I thought it would have been a great transition.
Yeah.
Because there was talks. And, of course, Belichick's, and we'll get into that, but Belichick's always got his hand. He's always in his picks when he was with New England, they were always maybe there. There was talks about them trading up to number 1 to draft Baker Mayfield. And that's not a joke. That was a conversation piece of making that move in New England to get him behind to sit. It would have been really interesting to see that happen, but it didn't happen. He did get his swagger back. He plays well. I'm glad to see him playing well and that it just didn't quite work out for him. But they gave him a game. They had opportunity at the end. And, ultimately the Baker haters are going to say, well, you got what you're going to get with Baker. At the end, he falls short. I don't think that, but that's what's going to be said by the
Baker,
haters.
One thing I kind of like, and I've never really been a huge Baker fan, to be honest, and I know he's matured a lot. I think he's a great actor, by the way.
He is a great actor.
And Tom Brady might be the worst actor of all time. But anyways, I don't know, man. Like, it's been fun seeing Baker play, and the league tried to make him a backup. And he's now proven he is worth a starting role, and was the starter on a playoff team that played
won a playoff game too.
Yeah, and played a heck of a game against the Lions. So shout out to Baker. I think that is a nice marriage with him and the Bucs and Todd Bowles. So I hope he stays there.
I agree 100%. And we'll see what the money means and what the money says. Obviously, being in Florida, no state taxes.
And
what's up?
Again, Dan Campbell, right? Talking about, one thing I also like about Dan Campbell, again, if I like the Lions, anything, it's Dan Campbell, right? And I love how he praises his guys, and it's no wonder guys like playing for him. But, one thing he said is, we just beat 2 hot teams, right?
Right.
And I like how he kind of phrases that or framed it, is because, a lot of teams, people might say it's, you played the Bucs, right? But no, the Bucs were very hot, right? So we just beat 2 hot teams, and he's got them hyped that they could go all the way and believing that they could go all the way.
And that's a positive sign for them in a division that's kind of open for grabs. Obviously, we'll see what happens with Atlanta and their staff, and if Carolina can get it together with their owner and that their first year rookie quarterback, and you never know what's going to happen in New Orleans. So it's good to see that they've got a plan in place, and we'll see if it works out for them moving forward. But again, getting back to Detroit, Aiden Hutchinson being a kid again. I don't want to give all this Michigan love because it will physically make me sick, but. Again, the storyline of a kid growing up there, being a Lions fan, going to college there, getting drafted there, and being a part of the resurgence there is so awesome to see.
I'm sure there's a ton of...
will that end next week?
I'm sure there's a ton of Hutchinson jerseys in the stands out there. But, we got another game to get into.
Well, let's get into that, because that was obviously the game of the weekend, so to speak, as far as everybody in the hype and the rivalry that it has become. This is, and I'm sure it's been said numerous times, I stayed away from media today as far as watching anything. I've read a few things, but I stayed away from it because I wanted to think about this. Is this you remember when the Patriots and, the Colts played each other? You had Manning and Brady going back and forth, and Manning just couldn't quite get past him, and then he did. And that kind of feels like this might be this era's in the AFC of that, the Buffalo and Kansas City. I mean, Buffalo's lost, I think, 3 playoff games to Kansas City.
Yeah, they're 0-3.
They're 0-3 in the playoffs. They play them it seems like almost every year now in the regular season as well, or every other year. Watching these 2 quarterbacks, obviously Josh Allen being who he is, Pat Mahomes being potentially on his way to being an all-time great, and obviously might even already be in the conversation. To have it be in Buffalo as opposed to Kansas City was huge. The stadium was rocking. There obviously was weather. It was cold. Very similar things happened in this game. Missed field goals, cost. Kansas City winning ugly again when we get into that.
Right.
The big thing that made the difference, and this is why I don't think you need to make any changes with this Buffalo game and this Buffalo team, is Diggs missing that 63-yard catch that was in his hands. It was a tough catch that Josh Allen just rocketed down there. And the one that Josh Allen didn't throw to him where he was wide open in the end zone. I mean, those are the differences.
I will say
in
the comments, you will get a lot of comments that say he should have caught that ball, because
should have caught that
ball. That's
ball.
what I've been hearing all day, is that he should have caught that ball. No one said that was a tough catch once. So I do think
it was a tough catch.
I get it. I mean, I get points. Like, I get both points, right? Like, or people, you understand it's a tough catch, but still he should have caught it. And big players make that catch in big moments. But it was a tough catch. I will give Diggs that. He's a great wide receiver. You're right. I don't think they need to blow this team up. We'll get more into it on the other side, but I wonder if they might be interested in Belichick.
So we talked about that real quick, and we're getting ready to go into the break, but we talked about that real briefly. Do you kick the tires on it just because?
Right. So I'm just saying, like, if there's a change, I think that might be where it comes. But
wow, it could be, and like you said, he was open to not having to be the GM.
I don't personally like him in Atlanta. I'd much rather see that guy in Buffalo. Buffalo, again, they can't seem to get over the hump, and a guy who has a ton of playoff experience and could probably get them over the hump is Bill Belichick. So
we'll see. All right, you guys.